Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and we got some new parts. Alright, so here's our motor parts. We're going to quickly go through it. This is a yz80 clutch cover. We got this, that way it's a two-piece. We don't have to take the whole cover off to get to our clutches. And hopefully if I have time, I'll get this powder coated. Went ahead and got an OEM cylinder head because the one that came on the bike was Chinese and I wanted at least a OEM cylinder head. Got a brand new clutch basket. There's a sleeve for the clutch basket. This is actually an 85, but it works on the yz80s. Got V-Force 4 reeds, hot rods transmission bearings. We got all new hardware for the motor by Fast Metric. Pressure plate, dowels, cylinder studs, sprocket. This is our kicker sprocket, the little washer and snap rings, spark plugs, new old stock Wiseco crank and bearings, and then we got Tusk oil seals, clutches, gaskets. This is a Chinese top end, or at least cylinder. We have a Pro X piston for that if we decide to use it. Then we have an OEM cylinder that has been bored out to a 105, 103 or 105. The piston measures 52.5. And then we have a Athena big bore. And we're waiting for the piston to come in for that, so we might use that. Also, if you use the Athena big bore kit, you also have to use their gaskets because the cylinder uses bigger gaskets than an OEM. I don't know if we're going to get to that one, and I might just go with the Chinese top end and run it for the cheap pit bike challenge because that's going to be closest to stock as possible. But then again, we might just go ahead and throw the OEM big bore on there. Alright, so first things first, before we can even start putting this thing back together, we got to get these bearings taken out. So let's take this thing to the farm and stick it in the oven. Alright, so as the other case is heating up and letting the bearing drop out, hopefully, we gotta take these two screws out, and we're gonna set this one on the clutch cover side, and hopefully this bearing and this one falls out. If not, we'll have to get the bearing removal tool, and we'll let it sit in there for, I don't know, 6-ish minutes, and if nothing happens, then what we'll do is we'll pull it out, we'll flip it over, we'll punch the crank bearing out, and then maybe try to get these out while the cases are still warm. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, yeah, well. But we got this impact driver. We're gonna set it in here. Oh, well, these are already loose, so. I guess it's now time to put it in the oven. there you have it. We're bearing free. Now we can get these cases cleaned up and put new bearings in it. Alright, so don't mind the bench, it's a mess right now, but this case is ready to go inside the ultrasonic cleaner. So we're going to go ahead and set it in the basket. And we're going to let it sit and run for 25 minutes. We have it set for 63 degrees Celsius. So go ahead, let that sit in there, put the lid on, and we're going to hit start and walk away because this thing is noisy. Alright, timer went up, and yes, it's not 100% clean. This is to get majority of it, and now we're going to do the final steps in here. I want to use this fluid one more time before I flush it out and put fresh fluid in. I'm still running purple power in this and the ultrasonic cleaner, but we will now start working. That's pretty tender. We'll now start the final cleaning in here. We'll throw the other one in there, which is sitting in this box because we had it up at the farm. Alright, so now we'll throw this guy in, and hopefully this will get just as much grime taken off as this one did. I mean, a lot of it came off. We'll just have to do the finishing touches. We'll set this in there for 35 minutes or 25 minutes also, and then do the same thing over here. Alrighty, the second side of the case is done. And now we'll go ahead and clean this guy up too. What's up, guys? So we got the bearings in the freezer right now. They've been in there for about half hour cooling off, and we're going to use this map gas to heat up this race right here and get it nice and warm, and then we'll run in, grab the bearing, come back out, and it should drop right in. Here we go. We'll let it sit there for a little bit, and then we'll flip this over and heat up these two spots here, because we got a needle bearing here, a ball bearing here, and we'll drop those in. Alright, so we got our rubber mallet in case we need it, but should go pretty straightforward. So we'll go ahead and get this area heated up along with this area. We'll go get those bearings. We'll drop these in. Alright, so we got those bearings in. We got to put these two bolts in. That's what's supposed to hold this bearing in place. I guess just in case it decides to want to walk out. But we got those two bolts, and it looks like they had blue Loctite originally. So when this cools down, we'll go ahead and do the same thing, but while it's cooling, we'll work on the other case. Alright, so now we're going to work on this crank bearing, and then we'll work on these two transmission bearings, and then all the bearings are done in the bottom end. Alright, that one's in. Wasn't as easy, but we got it in. So now we're going to work on the transmission bearings, and then this bottom end will be done. Alright, so we had two bearings that gave us a little bit of issues, both on the left side of the case. And that'd be this crank bearing and this bearing here for the front side of the transmission. Other than that, we had two drop straight in. The other two fell in for the most part and just needed a little bit of tapping. But that is done now. We can start letting these cool first. And then we can drop the crank in, which I could actually do that right now. Drop the crank in. This guy's pretty warm, so the crank might just fall in. Alright, so we're going to try to attempt to drop the crank in. And what we're going to do is we're going to heat up our tool that we actually made for the yz80 rear end. We're going to heat this up. We're just going to reheat that up, set it right on the bearing, let the inner race get hot, and we'll go get the crank, pull that off, and the crank should fall right in. Well, it didn't quite just drop in, so never had to buy one, but I might as well buy a crank puller. So we'll go ahead and get one of those ordered, and that way we can get this together, right? Because I don't want to be beating this thing out and beating it back in and all that. So we'll just get a crank puller and do it that way. But oh well.